Hello and welcome back to the C9 Podcast Show. I'm Lex.
And I'm Vera.
And we are kicking off the year Happy January 2026, by the way, with a deep dive that is, frankly, essential listening for anyone signing the checks in an Australian boardroom right now.
Absolutely.
And before we get into the heavy-hitting stuff, I just want to send a quick welcome to our new followers joining us on the podcast and business page. This deep dive has been curated specifically for you, the Australian business owners and C-level executives navigating, well, what is arguably the most chaotic tech landscape we have ever seen.
It really is. It's great to be here. If you look back just 2 years, the conversation was all about what if.
Right. What if AI could do this?
What if we could automate that? Now, in 2026, the conversation has shifted entirely to how, and I think more importantly, how much is this costing me?
Exactly. We are looking at a stack of research today called Architecting the Future, AI Native SaaS in 2026. And there is an uncomfortable truth right at the top of this material. It's a bit of a slap in the face, to be honest. It basically says that if you are building a platform today using traditional software architecture and just, bolting on AI features, you aren't just creating a subpar product.
Yeah.
You are already 18 months behind market.
It's a harsh reality, but the data we have here, it backs it up completely. We're seeing a massive bifurcation, a splitting of the market.
Okay.
The stats show that by the end of this year, 80% of enterprises will be deploying generative AI applications. So on the surface, it looks like everyone's adopting the tech.
80% is huge. I mean, that's mass adoption.
It is. But here's the catch, and this is the number that really matters. Only 30% of those companies will have production-ready autonomous systems that actually deliver a return on investment.
So wait, only 30%?
The other 50%, they are in what we call the production gap. They have prototypes, they have demos, but they don't have a working business model.
That is a staggering drop-off. So everyone is trying it, but less than a third are actually making it work. Today, our mission is to unpack exactly why that is. We're going to explore why AI cowboys are destroying development budgets, why the bolt-on method is mechanically destined to fail, and how C9's specific methodology using discovery and hybrid teams is solving this specifically for the Australian market.
And to understand the solution, we really have to understand the trap. And the biggest trap right now is the difference between being AI-enabled and being AI-native.
Let's stop there and really break this down. Because to a CEO or a founder who isn't writing code every day, enabled versus native might just sound like marketing semantics.
Sure.
What is the actual structural difference between the two?
Okay, think of AI-enabled as the traditional SaaS model we've been building for the last, 15 years. You have a database, a user interface, some logic code. Then, because it's 2026 and you need an AI story, you stick a chatbot on the side.
So you're gluing a smart doorbell onto an old brick house.
That's a perfect analogy. It looks modern from the street, but the plumbing inside is still from 1990. Whereas AI-native means the AI is the foundation. It's the concrete slab. The entire structure is built around the assumption that an autonomous intelligence, not a human, is driving the workflow.
And the reason traditional apps fail at this isn't just because they look clunky.
No, it's a fundamental technical bottleneck. It's all about how data moves. It's the difference between synchronous and asynchronous processing.
I saw this in the notes, and I'm going to go deep here. Synchronous versus asynchronous. It sounds technical, but the business impact is massive. Why does this distinction break traditional apps?
Okay, so traditional apps, your standard CRM, accounting software, whatever, they operate on linear synchronous processing. When you click Save, the browser sends a request, the server talks to the database, updates the record, sends a success message back.
Click, boom, done.
And crucially, that whole loop happens in milliseconds. It is instant. The system is designed to block the user interface for that split second because it's so fast you don't even notice. The thread of the application literally pauses, waits for the answer, and resumes.
Okay, so it's a straight line. Request, wait, response.
But AI doesn't work like that. Generative AI is non-deterministic and computationally heavy. It needs to think. If you ask an AI to analyze a 50-page contract and pull out the risk clauses, that is not a millisecond task.
No.
That might take 10 seconds, 20 seconds, maybe even a minute, depending on the complexity.
In the world of software, 30 seconds is an eternity.
It's a lifetime. Now, if you take that 30-second thought process and force it into a synchronous system built for millisecond responses, which is exactly what happens when you just bolt on an API, you break the user experience. The application blocks.
And that's when we get the frozen UI.
Exactly. You click the button, the screen grays out, and you get the spinning wheel. And you can't click anything else. You can't navigate away. The browser thinks the application has crashed because the main thread is just sitting there waiting for the AI to finish thinking.
It's basically holding its breath until it passes out.
That's a great way to put it. And we have a source here referencing an Australian fintech example that shows the cost of this mistake. They spent $280,000 retrofitting AI into their document processing platform.
That is not a small experiment. That's a $250,000 mistake.
And because they kept the traditional synchronous architecture, every time someone used the AI, it blocked a server thread. They hit 500 concurrent users, which isn't even that many for a fintech.
Not at all.
And the entire system crashed.
It just fell over.
Completely. Requests timed out, the database locked up. It's like trying to flush a bowling ball down a standard toilet. The plumbing just isn't built for it.
That is a vivid image, but it makes the point.
Hmm.
So the technology fails. But reading through this report, the economics are just as dangerous. I was shocked by the margin analysis. Traditional SaaS usually operates on these beautiful 80 to 90% gross margins.
That's the golden rule of SaaS. You write the code once, you sell it 1,000 times, and the cost to serve a new customer is basically zero. But AI native is different. The gross margins are closer to 50 or 60%.
That is a massive hit to the bottom line. Where's all that money going?
It's going to compute. In traditional SaaS, a user logging in and clicking around costs you fractions of a cent in cloud fees. In AI native, if that user asks an autonomous agent to research a market, draft a strategy document, and email 20 clients, you are paying for serious GPU time. You are paying for the intelligence.
There's a story here about a Melbourne-based HR tech startup. This one really highlights the pricing trap of ignoring those costs.
This is a classic cautionary tale. They launched an AI recruitment platform. They looked at the market and charged the standard SaaS price $99 per seat per month. It sounded like a great deal.
Standard pricing for a standard tool.
But it wasn't a standard tool. Their power users started using the autonomous agents heavily to screen thousands of CVs. Those specific users were costing the company $187 a month in infrastructure bills.
Wait, they were charging $99 and spending $187.
They were losing nearly $90 on every single one of their best customers. They were literally bleeding cash with every success. The more the customers loved the product, the faster the company went broke.
And they probably didn't realize it until the AWS bill arrived months later.
Exactly. That is the definition of a catastrophic success. So if you are an executive listening to this, you have to realize you must architect differently and you must price differently. But this leads to the next problem. Who builds this? Because there is a serious talent shortage, and it has given rise to a character the research calls the AI Cowboy.
Yeah, AI Cowboy. It sounds fun, but the description here is terrifying for anyone concerned about their budget, let alone security.
It should be. The AI Cowboy is a developer who claims AI expertise, but really only has surface-level knowledge. Maybe they took a weekend course, or they know how to copy-paste code to hook up an API from OpenAI. They engage in what the industry is calling vibes coding.
Vibes coding. That sounds like the opposite of engineering.
It is. It's feeling your way through the code. They aren't designing a system. They're just gluing things together until it looks like it works in a demo. It works when you show it to the board on a Tuesday morning, but there is no structure underneath. It's a house of cards.
This is where the cost of cheap comes in. We have a direct financial comparison here between a $50,000 project built by a cowboy and a professional build. I want to walk through the math on this because the sticker shock on the professional build often scares people into choosing the cowboy.
Right. Let's look at option A, the Cowboy. They quote you $50,000. For a C-level exec looking at a P&L, that looks like a steal.
Okay.
You pay it, and you get a shiny demo in 8 weeks. You feel great.
I'm saving money. I'm launching fast. I'm a genius.
Until month 3. Performance issues emerge. That frozen UI we talked about starts happening every day. You spend $150,000 on emergency engineering just to keep the lights on.
Okay.
Then month 6 rolls around and you fail a security audit because there's no governance on where the data is going.
That's a nightmare scenario.
That's another $85,000 in remediation and potential fines. By month 9, the system physically cannot scale past 2,000 users because it was never architected for it. You have to make the hard call to scrap it and rebuild it entirely.
So you're going back to square one, but you've burned 9 months and a lot of cash.
Correct. When you factor in the rebuilds, the lost revenue from churned customers, and the security failures, that $50,000 project ends up costing you $1.425 million over 18 months.
Wow. Over $1 million in damage from a 50K decision. That is a brutal ROI.
Now compare that to option B, the professional approach like what C9 offers. The upfront cost is higher, say $315,000, but that includes discovery, rigorous architecture, stress testing. Over those same 18 months, your total cost is around $579,000.
You spend 300 grand to save nearly $1 million later.
Exactly. And you have a platform that actually works and generates revenue. There's a specific example of a Perth property tech startup in here that proves this point perfectly. They hired a freelancer for $25,000.
Let me guess. It didn't go well.
The system crashed hourly once they hit 500 users. And you know why? The Cowboy had hard-coded the API keys directly into the app code.
Oh, no.
It's a massive security risk. Anyone who downloaded the app could theoretically steal their keys and use their account. Plus, there was no queue system. C9 had to come in and rebuild it for $110,000.
So they paid the freelancer, then they paid the experts, plus all the reputation damage.
Exactly. Cheap is expensive.
So let's pivot to the solution. We've scared everyone sufficiently with the frozen screens and the burning cash. What does true, robust AI-native architecture actually look like? You mentioned 4 pillars in the notes that C9 uses.
Right. If you are a CTO or a founder listening to this, write these down. These are the questions you ask your dev team. Number 1, async queue-based processing.
This is the fix for the frozen screens.
Yes. So imagine you walk into a busy cafe. In the old system, the synchronous one, you order your coffee, and you have to stand at the register, blocking everyone else, until the barista hands you the cup.
Terrible system. Nobody moves.
Async is different. You order, they give you a buzzer or a number, and you go sit down and do your work. The line keeps moving. The system accepts the request, acknowledges it, processes it in the background, and then notifies you when it's done.
So the user can keep working while the AI thinks?
Exactly. It separates the user interface from the heavy lifting. It is essential for scaling. Number 2 is multi-agent orchestration. We need to stop thinking of AI as one big brain that does everything. It's more like a team.
Like a staff. You wouldn't hire one person to be your lawyer, your doctor, and your accountant.
Precisely. A Melbourne healthcare platform is doing this brilliantly. They don't just have the AI. They have a diagnostic agent, a treatment agent, and a compliance agent. They all work together.
Okay.
One gathers symptoms, one suggests a plan, and the third checks it against Australian regulations.
That makes so much sense, because if you ask one model to do all 3, it gets confused. It hallucinates.
Specialization reduces error. Number 3 is vector databases. Now, this sounds technical, but it's actually about meaning.
This is the difference between keyword search and semantic search, right?
A Brisbane legal SaaS implemented this. With traditional keyword search, if you search for car accident, you might miss a case file that only said vehicle collision.
Because the letters don't match. Car is not vehicle.
Exactly. But a vector database turns words into numbers, vectors, that represent their meaning in a multidimensional space. The math shows that car and vehicle are close together in that space, so the AI understands the concept. Their search accuracy went from finding 55% of relevant cases to 92%.
That is game-changing for lawyers. I mean, if you miss half the cases, you lose the trial.
Huge impact. And the 4th pillar is the cost optimization layer. You cannot send every simple hello to the most expensive AI model like GPT-4. You need a traffic cop that routes simple tasks to cheaper, faster models and only sends the complex tasks to the expensive smart models.
Like sending an intern to get coffee instead of the senior partner.
That's it. A Sydney fintech dropped their AI costs from $42,000 a month down to $11,000 just by doing this routing.
That's pure profit going back into the business. So we know the architecture. But how do we actually get this built? This is where C9 comes into the picture. They have a very specific methodology that seems to address these pitfalls.
They do. And it starts with the word that impetuous founders hate: discovery.
Oh, everyone wants to skip discovery. Just start coding. We know what we want.
And that is the most expensive sentence in software development. C9 has calculated the ROI on this. Skipping the discovery phase might save you, say, $35,000 up front, but it statistically costs about $380,000 in rework later.
That's a 10x penalty for impatience.
And it solves the indicative pricing trap. If you ask a developer for a price without doing discovery, they are just guessing. And when they guess, you either get a bait and switch where the price doubles later, or you get a broken system because they cut corners to hit that imaginary number.
C9 also uses a hybrid model for the actual build. I found this interesting because it addresses the talent shortage here in Australia. We all know good local devs are expensive.
It's the best of both worlds. Purely onshore teams in Australia are fantastic, but very expensive. You're looking at $150 to $200 an hour. Purely offshore teams are cheap, but you often have communication gaps, time zone issues, and quality control problems.
So C9 blends them.
Exactly. The project leads, solution architects, and QA leads are right here in Australia. They handle the strategy, they handle the sensitive compliance issues, they speak your language, both literally and culturally, but the heavy lifting of the coding is done by their direct hire offshore teams.
So you get the Australian accountability, but the blended rate comes down to something more manageable, like 95 to 130 an hour.
Which is a massive saving without sacrificing the governance. And speaking of governance, we have to talk about Australian compliance.
Yeah, the legal stuff. The Privacy Act 1988, APRA, CPS 234. These aren't just acronyms. They're potential fines that can shut a business down.
Massive fines.
Yeah.
There was a Brisbane healthcare platform mentioned in the source material. They faced $1.8 million in fines and remediation.
Ouch. What?
Because an AI agent triaged a patient incorrectly and there was no audit trail, they couldn't explain why the AI made that decision. C9 ensures that human-in-the-loop protocols and audit logs are built in from day one. You can't just slap compliance on at the end.
It has to be baked in.
Yeah.
Now, another thing that drives business owners crazy is being held hostage by their developers. We've all heard the stories of vendor lock-in.
It's a nightmare. You hire a dev, they write code only they understand, and then they disappear or jack up their rates.
And you're stuck. You can't fire them because you lose your entire product.
C9 takes a totally different approach. They mandate comprehensive documentation and code walkthroughs. The philosophy is, you pay for the code, you own the code. You should be able to take it to another team tomorrow if you wanted to.
That's refreshing. It shows a lot of confidence, really. They're saying, we're good enough that we don't need to trap you.
Exactly. And for companies that don't want to hire a full internal team, C9 offers staff augmentation. So if you need to scale up for a big launch, you can grab a full pot of developers. If you need to scale down later, you can. It saves you from the overhead of hiring and firing internal staff.
Which, in the current economic climate, is a huge flexibility advantage. You don't want to carry that headcount if you don't have to.
It allows you to be agile. You integrate their specialists into your business, they work with your team, but you don't have the HR headache.
So let's bring this all together. We are in 2026. The market is splitting. You have the companies that are built on Bedrock AI native, compliant, cost-optimized, and the companies built on sand.
That's the summary. By the end of this year, we aren't going to be talking about AI experiments anymore. The experimental phase is over. You will either have a production-ready AI platform that drives revenue, or you will be a failed experiment.
And if you are listening to this and you are an Australian business owner or executive, you definitely don't want to be in that second group. You need a partner who understands the local landscape, the compliance, and the deep architecture required to make this work.
You need C9. They are Australia's leading custom software, apps, integration, and database developer company for a reason.
So here's the call to action, folks. Don't just let this information sit in your headphones. Go to www.c9.com.au. That's CE9.com.au. Book that free 30-minute discovery consultation. And here's a little insider tip from the research stack. If you mention this deep dive when you book, you get a complimentary architecture review worth $5,000.
That is a massive value add. Seriously, take them up on that. An architecture review can save you from that $1.4 million nightmare we talked about earlier.
And please, if you found this deep dive useful, make sure you click that follow button on the podcast and our business page. Share this discussion with your CTO, your co-founder, or anyone who needs to hear this. We want to see Australian businesses win on the global stage. And this is how we do it.
Absolutely. It's about building smarter, not just faster.
Leave us with one final thought to chew on.
I'll leave you with this question to ask your development team tomorrow morning. Are you building a platform that creates value while you sleep, or one that burns cash where you wait for a loading spinner?
Oof. Powerful stuff. Thanks for the insights, and thank you all for listening. We'll see you in the next deep dive.